I'm 2 minutes early. I am 2 minutes early. I wanted to pop on early for Whiskey Wednesday to make sure y'all are joining me. So you just start talking to me, putting your comments in the chat, and we can rock and roll and talk about the buyer broker agreement. Buyer broker agreement. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Every Wednesday at 7 o'clock for the past 4 years, I'm Joni Bates, and we do Whiskey Wednesday. I have a new set. My office in my home has been completely redone, and it is pink. Ceiling, walls, doors, everything's pink. It's amazing. Hope you're all doing super good. And the reason we're talking about, boring things like documents is because it's crazy important right now. Thanks to a few people behaving badly, we had to get some new laws and rules. And however you feel politically about all this stuff to do with DOJ and NAR and Mr. Burnett, it just is what it is. The fact is we all have to pivot, and pivot we will. And it will affect you, the consumer, big time, big time. I am going to do this in 2 parts this evening. Hello, Brett Ray. I'm going to do this in 2 parts this evening because the first part is going to be broad strokes. I'm going to talk to agents. I'm going to talk to consumers. If you're a buyer, a seller, an investor, we're going to do broad strokes and let you know what you need to know. And then we're going deep. We're going deep into the buyer broker agreement. And this is going to be recorded and it will be used, edited, to go out to all of my clients whenever they have questions in regards to the buyer broker, because I always like to make sure all of our JB & Co. clients are super informed. They can always call us and they will always have a video associated with a contract because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a legal document. So let's do a little history. I've been doing this 4 years, okay? 4, because that's in the way, 4 years. When I first started this gig, people didn't talk about a buyer broker agreement. They really didn't. I knew it existed. I knew that some people used it, but it wasn't required. It was talking about being required. It was strongly encouraged that you used a buyer broker agreement. And then it got to the point where it was required to make sure it was done before you got to the point of having an offer go binding. So what happened? You know what happened. When you were going to bind an offer, you slid in the buyer broker agreement. Everything got signed at once, everything went binding, and everything was legal, and it got sent off to the attorneys, and you closed down the house. It wasn't like you had a ticket, a physical contract in order to walk in the door. That did not exist. Now, JB & Co. for the past 18 months, this is exactly what we have always required. You do not get to go into a home with JB & Co. without the golden ticket, which is a buyer broker agreement. Broad strokes, what is it? It's the contract. It's just like if you had someone to come out to your house and do work and you said, you're going to do this for me, I'm going to do this for you, and this is what we're going to get paid. Yeah, sure, great. Where do I sign? It's the exact same thing because we as agents work our tail off and we should get paid. Okay. We are 100% commission. No one's getting healthcare. No one's getting the car allowance. No one's getting anything unless we get to the closing table and our clients pay us. So this buyer broker agreement basically says for us as JB & Co. that we work for 3%. 3% is our compensation. Notice I did not say commission because that word, don't use it. Don't use it anymore. It can get you in trouble. Our compensation is 3%. So when we sit down with our beautiful box that says JB & Co. and it has all the things in it, we explain what a buyer broker agreement is. It talks about what I'm going to do. It talks about what the buyer's going to do and how much the agent is going to get paid. In the event that you get winner, winner, chicken dinner, and you're lucky enough to have a seller who is offering a compensation to a buyer broker, great. That can go dollar for dollar towards the buyer broker or your buyer's agent. Does that make sense? So you're basically saying, we work for 3%. Oh, the seller is offering 3%. Excellent. Done. That is negotiable. It's always been negotiable. It has never not been negotiable. However, again, when people behave badly, we have to create laws. Okay. Those are broad strokes. As of August 17th, you got it? August 17th. You, as a consumer, will not be able to walk into a house with an agent without this. That agent can lose their license. It is a federal law now. It is literally illegal. You have to have a disclosure, a representation of what you are going to get paid in order to show that house. Now, that's going to cause some problems. It sure is. What if you're just driving around one day and you see a sign, a beautiful house? Babe, let's call. I want to go see the house. Ring, ring. Hello, listing agent. I'm sitting out in front of 123 Banana Street. I would love to come see that house. As the agent, you say, great. I'd love to show you that house. I live in the neighborhood. I'll be right over. Now you're standing face to face in front of a door as the buyer that you want to see it, as the listing agent that you want to show it. And you've got this in your hand. You don't know them. They don't know you. But in order to let them in that door, they need to sign this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-page contract that we are expecting a complete stranger to sign in order to walk in. That's the new law. Okay. Let me just get rid of all your worries. Just let them wash away. This is not that big a deal. When you go buy a cell phone and they give you that contract, y'all, do you read every single page? You know you're going to get a phone. You're going to probably pay too much for it. You know you're going to get a monthly payment. Again, you're going to pay too much for it. And you're going to sign on the bottom line and you're going to get your phone, and the little representative over there who's probably 12 is going to explain it to you. And you're going to be like, yeah, fine, give me my phone. This is really no different. What we're doing, and this is what I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit in my explanation. How am I doing, Brett, right? Am I explaining it right? In my explanation here, let's just look at it. What we're basically saying is, number one on this buyer broker agreement is it's defining who are the people, the agent and the buyer. Number two, it's letting you know what the terms of the agreement are. Please don't think that when you're standing in front of that complete stranger who is that listing agent and they're going to show the house to you as a buyer, that you need to put a term in here of anything more than just the address for that moment at that time at that house. That is absolutely okay to do. You do not need to marry this agent just because they're showing you one house. Absolutely not. You can do it for just that time, just that date, just that house. That's number two, okay? Woo, my screen just moved. Okay, number three on this form is basically describing what kind of things that you can do as an agent and what they're going to offer you. All of these things here aren't going to apply. You've got seller agency, sub-agency, buyer agency, tenant agency, designated agency, landlord agency, and dual agency. The only thing that gets marked is what they're not going to do. So we're talking double negatives here. Most of the time, the only thing that gets marked in number three is dual agency. Sometimes folks don't do good on that. It's basically one agent is representing both sides. And if you're standing at the door, planning on letting people in to your listing, you're basically saying you're doing dual agency. If you do that, then part B, 3B, is very important. Just be able to say that that buyer is consenting to, they know that you are going to be basically working both sides and they're okay with that. Okay. That's what that means. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4 is new. This is the part that gets everybody tripped up. It's not that complicated. Okay. We're just going to go through it real quick. On number 4, compensation for professional services of broker. Compensation, commission. We're not using that word, right? Compensation. Generally, compensation to the brokers is negotiable and is not set by state law. Ding, 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 not set by state law. However, this does not obligate an individual, licensee, or brokerage firms to necessarily negotiate their compensation. Basically saying JB & Co. works for 3%. We always work for 3%. Okay. B, compensation to the buyer's broker. The buyer agrees to pay the buyer broker agent the compensation set forth below at the closing of any contract to purchase, a purchase and sales agreement. And then it has sections in there under 4B of how that agent is going to get paid. Are they going to get paid a percentage of the sale? Are they going to get paid a flat rate? Or is there something else going to happen? Okay. This is what's important. As a consumer and as an agent, whatever number you put in there under 4B, that's the top. If you put that you're going to get 3% and then you start negotiating through your deal and they're willing to offer you 4%, you can't take it. Because legally you signed an agreement saying you're going to do 3%. Just saying, just letting you know. Okay. Option C, so 4C, optional compensation from the seller or seller's broker to buy the buyer agent's brokerage. It has a lot of words in here, but what it's basically saying is, do you approve or disapprove the buyer broker receiving compensation from the seller? Well, why would y'all not say yes? Well, of course you would say yes. You got to think to yourself, why is that even in here? That's a no-brainer. But is it? Again, people behave badly. So 4C always needs to say the buyer hereby approves. That means that if Mr. and Mrs. Seller want to pay the buyer agent, that's all that means. Okay. Again, we gotta make this really clear. Okay. Then it's going to go down and describe if the buyer approves such compensation being paid by the seller to the buyer, the maximum amount the buyer brokerage may receive from the seller is X. Most of the time we're going to be not standard. JB & Co. does 3%. So you see what we just did? 3% across the board. JB & Co. agents are going to get paid 3%. It's either coming from the seller, coming from the buyer, or a combination thereof when we negotiate this contract. Again, I'm going into the weeds. If you don't want to be in the weeds, y'all should have left a while ago. But we're going in the weeds. Okay. 4D, possible reduction in buyer's compensation, obligation to buyer's brokerage. Any compensation the buyer broker receives from the seller or seller's broker shall, again, this is real basic, reduce the compensation of the buyer shall pay the buyer dollar to dollar, not reduce the compensation to the buyer broker or special exceptions. This is a lot of words for saying that you're going to XD1, dollar for dollar. Again, if it's 3% and the seller is going to offer a compensation towards the buyer brokerage, dollar for dollar, that buyer who's signing this does not have to honor that because it's being taken care of, dollar for dollar. Again, we're in the weeds here. Okay. Then we go down to protected period, which is usually 90 days. Compensation on assignment. Now we're really in the weeds. This is if we're talking to investors and everything else. Now look, everything that was on the front of that page is going to be explained in detail on the next 6 pages. It's just going to be explained. These documents are going to be redacted and watermarked and available on my website. It's just important right now that whenever you are thinking about buying and selling, that you have these documents now because you are entering into a contract with someone. and you need to know what it says. And standing at the door, waiting to go in to see a home and not having the opportunity to read the 7 pages is not awesome. Now, do we all do it all the time? Absolutely. We buy cars that way. And honestly, we do buy houses that way. That's why you need to trust your agent. That's why I'm a geek and I go through all these things and study them. There is one thing in this buyer broker agreement that I need you all to understand. And I don't think my buyers necessarily always understand this, because sometimes, when you're working towards buying, selling, or investing, y'all don't do this every day. We do multiple times a day, 12 hours a day, 365 days a year. Your emotions are going to go through the roof. Some things aren't going to go well. There's an average in every transaction from beginning to end, 12 things, 12 that are going to be bumpy. That's just the normal transaction. 12 things are going to get bumpy. It's a fact. We're talking about people, circumstances, and money. It will get bumpy. There is a section that talks about what are your duties. Again, this is the contract. So the duties of a buyer agent are listed. And it's A, B, C, and D. But the duties of a buyer are listed, and it's A through H. There are obligations as a buyer that you need to know about. And I will go into that later, but A through H, here's a classic one. H, you will contact the agent if at any point in time you would like to see a for sale by owner. You must contact your broker within a reasonable opportunity so that they can contact the for sale by owner in order to create a agreement between that for sale by owner. It's all in here. So when you've got a client who's like, oh, Joni, I was just driving by and I saw that for sale by owner and I just went up and talked to them, they're a breach of contract. It's just a fact. So it's important to read these. It's important to understand. It's important to know what's happening. So rest easy. JB & Co.'s got you. We've been all over this. We understand it. We have understood it. Truly, nothing is changing. What's changing for the industry is transparency. For JB & Co., it's always been the same. It's just a Tuesday. But I want you to understand that if you are looking at buying a home and you want to go see homes, just plan. Just say, I think that would be great to go driving around looking at homes on Saturday. I might want to pick up the phone and let Joni know, because she might need to be available. And I know that I need a ticket in order to go into these houses. Every single person, agency in the state of Georgia, Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, all of them are going to require this. You basically need the golden ticket to get into a door. I hope that helps. Brett Ray, how we doing? Did I miss anything? Do I need to answer any more questions? We've been discussing this for months. In the past couple weeks, there's been a few more documents that have come to the top that we now know that our buyer agents need to be aware of. That has to be a pre-showing document, which we're going to talk about next Whiskey Wednesday. But basically, the idea here is complete transparency when it comes to compensation. That no funny business can happen, and that it is not going to be anywhere in any form visible to the public about how much compensation is going to be offered towards a buyer agent. That's the flat. That is what's happening. And that's why we're talking about these things, because y'all buyer agents do not work for free. And you need to know that. So if the seller is not willing to assist in any way, that's going to fall on the buyer. Now, all you first-time home buyers out there, don't freak out. We do this all the time. It's called adding it to the top. We work with investors all the time. If you're looking at a home and by chance this seller is not offering any kind of compensation, then we literally add it to the top. And we negotiate through that way. We work with your lender. We make sure that we're balanced as far as our debt to income ratio and to your amount that the seller contribution is in regards to the particular loan that you are eligible for, so that you are staying within your navigational beacons as far as an FHA, a VA, USDA. There's a cap on how much a seller is allowed to contribute within those loans. And if we're doing it right and you're talking to the right people, i.e. us, and you have the right vendor partners, we are able to pull out the compensation part, put back in the seller concession to closing costs, and then everything works seamlessly. But if you're not working with a true professional, there's going to be some hiccups. But you know where we're at. 678-788-6465. This wasn't that much fun, aside from my new office with the pink walls. But right now, with everything happening within this industry, it's very important to work with true professionals who are going in deep. And I got to tell you, my agents out there, if you are having a difficult time, this is a lot. These forms are a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's scary. We are willing to help other agents understand and navigate this process. My entire team is all full-time. We aren't hobbyists. We don't have a different 9 to 5 and then do this in the evening and hustle on the weekend. This is all that we do to support our families. We take it very seriously. So, absolutely. Our goal first, as Brett Ray just said, is education. We will educate you all the way through this process to the point where you don't want to know anymore. Joni, I trust you. Please just let it happen. And that's okay too. But I want to let you know that this has been shredded and gone through so many times that we know what's happening. Okay, y'all. I'm going to let y'all go. Oh my gosh, I talked about one document for 20 minutes. We have an amazing listing at 332 Tupelo Trail in Canton, Georgia. It is stunning. We're talking panoramic views, detailed molding. I get chills. Every time I walk into this house, it feels like I'm being transported to a chateau. It is truly a resort feel. This home is having an open house on Saturday and Sunday coming up this weekend from 2 to 4 on both days. This is not going to last long. It's being offered for $838,000, so $838,000. It is gorgeous. Okay, we do have another listing that's coming available in Winston, Georgia, on Tyree. That's coming soon. It'll be available on Tuesday of next week. And then we have another property that is going to be Harrison High School. It's a luxury property being offered for around $930,000. 4-sided brick. It is a Bircher home. If you know, you know. Built in 2020. It is in Antioch. It is gorgeous. We also have a listing over on Witt Station. It is offered for $480,000. It is a great renovation. It is gorgeous. Great schools, great neighborhood. So we do have a lot going on over here. So if you're looking for it, we got it. We also have an investor special going on right now that is insane. It is on Church Street in Riverdale. And that one's got to go now. So if you are looking for any hot properties, my investors out there, give us a holler. Riverdale, Church Street. It is a 3-1 and it is ready to go at $221,000. All right, guys, y'all take care, be well, and give us a holler. We're rocking and rolling over here. Take care.